Mick Schumacher and Felipe Drugovich side by side, driving for the same team in Formula One? Could it really happen? Cadillac, the American giant poised to enter F1, is moving the pieces to form a bold and strategic partnership for 2026. On one side, the heir to Formula One's most legendary surname. On the other, the Brazilian who has already proven his talent by winning Formula 2, but who has so far seen doors closed in front of him. And in the midst of all this, tight deadlines, quiet negotiations, and an intense political dispute between the FIA and FOM over the entry of the Andretti Cadillac team. So stay until the end of the video, like it, and subscribe to the channel. Mick Schumacher is back in the Formula One spotlight. After 2 years away from the main grid, the most iconic surname in motorsport history could be about to reappear in full force in the 2026 season. And not just any team. We're talking about the entry Cadillac, next to the Andretti Global, in an ambitious project that seeks to shake up the current structure of F1. In an interview in Brazil, Mick was direct and confirmed. Yes, there are discussions with Cadillac about the future. There is an exchange of ideas. There is mutual interest. This simple and objective phrase is enough to set the paddock on fire and raise the expectations of millions of fans. Yes, obviously the conversations are ongoing. Communication has been very positive. It's a great project. They've already hired a fantastic number of people for it. It's an incredible project, a great story. So, it's something I feel honored to be a part of, negotiating, and it's a great position to be in, he said. However, Schumacher isn't the only candidate for this spot. Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez also appear as strong favorites, as does Brazilian Felipe Drugovich. But after all, how did we get here? Since losing his seat at Haas at the end of 2022, Mick Schumacher has had to rebuild his career in silence. He took on the role of reserve driver at Mercedes, working behind the scenes with Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, without the spotlight, but with great discipline. At the same time, he sought to maintain his reputation in the sport by conducting tests and simulator sessions, and in 2024, he took an important step by joining the team Alpine in the World Endurance Championship, WEC. This move, besides keeping him competitive, served as a showcase. It showed that Mick still has the hunger for speed, commitment to performance, and maturity to return to F1. And in a paddock that values experience over youth, the Schumacher name has once again been circulating strongly behind the scenes. But what really changed the game was Cadillac's decision to invest heavily in its entry into Formula One from 2026. Institutionally supported by FIA, which has already given the green light to Andretti, the American brand wants to make an impact not only with its technical project, but also with the formation of a pair of drivers capable of generating global attention, and that's where the Schumacher name fits perfectly. Having Michael Schumacher's son driving for an American team, which is debuting in a new era of F1 with renewed technical regulations, could be a powerful marketing and sporting identity move. Mick also carries a legion of fans wherever he goes, especially in Europe and Germany, a market Cadillac is eyeing. And the most interesting thing? Mick doesn't seem to be getting carried away by emotion alone. In recent interviews, he's adopted a balanced tone, aware of the current situation and what he needs to deliver to secure his return. He himself admitted that his priority is still returning to F1, and that he's in direct contact with different teams, but that the Cadillac project is special because it opens up a concrete opportunity for joint growth, driver and team evolving side by side. For Cadillac, Mick represents the ideal driver to lead the project in the medium term, someone with a strong surname, a solid technical background, experience in F1, and still with room for improvement. But it's not all sunshine and roses. Mick's return still depends on two critical factors: the final approval of Andretti Cadillac's entry into F1 by FOM, Formula One management, and the technical performance of the engine and chassis project being developed in the United States. Without FOM's commercial approval, the team may have the FIA's support, but it will remain off the grid. This creates an atmosphere of uncertainty that directly impacts the timing of decisions. Before I continue, please like and subscribe to the channel so that the YouTube algorithm recommends this video. And let's get started. Felipe Drugovich, for his part, lives a different, and perhaps even more urgent, reality than Mick Schumacher. While the German has a kind of second chance being quietly built behind the scenes, the Brazilian is increasingly impatient with the lack of concrete decisions. The 2022 Formula 2 champion entered 2025 as Aston Martin's reserve driver, surrounded by expectations that, year after year, were postponed. And now, with Cadillac analyzing its 2026 lineup, Drugovich did what many pilots avoid: set a public deadline for a decision. In an interview, Felipe was clear and direct. There's a deadline, and it's very close. We've already spent a lot of time negotiating. This type of statement, especially in the current political and commercial context of Formula One, sounds almost like an ultimatum. But why did Drugovich decide to take a stand now? The answer lies in combination of accumulated frustration and the imminence of a unique opportunity after years of behind-the-scenes preparation, fulfilling his technical role with excellence at Aston Martin, participating in simulator sessions and private tests, and being considered by many engineers as a consistent and ready-to-drive talent. Felipe has still not secured the long-awaited starting grid seat, and not for lack of competence, but rather due to a crowded grid, conservative teams in their selections, and promises that failed to materialize. He was even considered to replace Stroll on occasion, but the opportunities evaporated, despite the Canadians' discreet performances. Now, the opportunity with Cadillac appears to be the most concrete in a long time, and Drugovich knows that either it is now, or it may not be anymore. The American team, according to sources close to the project, considers Felipe as one of the main options for the debut lineup. His profile is appealing: young, an F2 champion, with strong technical support and a solid foundation of preparation. Furthermore, choosing a Brazilian driver also carries strategic appeal for Cadillac, which wants to build a global image. Brazil, which hasn't had a permanent representative in F1 for over a decade, remains one of the most exciting markets with great commercial potential. Drugovich knows this and plays it smart. But by publicly setting a deadline for the team, he also applies pressure and exposes himself. According to behind-the-scenes accounts, the deadline mentioned by Drugovich is not just rhetorical. This is a real date, negotiated between his staff and executives at Andretti and Cadillac, aiming to guarantee safety for 2026 or the freedom to pursue other options. Brazilians want to avoid the risk of spending another year waiting for a decision that never comes. And 2025 is a decisive year in this regard, because the driver market is moving faster than usual. The arrival of the new regulations for 2026, with profound changes to engine design and aerodynamic concepts, means teams that haven't yet finalized their names are racing against time to sign contracts in time to begin joint development with drivers. And therein lies the risk for Drugovich. Cadillac's indecision, which still depends on FOM's final approval for its official entry onto the grid, could become an obstacle, both for the Brazilian and any other interested drivers. If the team's entry is blocked, delayed, or weakened politically, Felipe may be left without an alternative again. At the same time, if he waits too long, he could miss other opportunities that are emerging behind the scenes, especially with the possible departure of names like Bottas, Magnussen, Sargent, and even Ricciardo. Some vacancies are expected to open between 2025 and 2026, and the timing of the decision is crucial. Therefore, Drugovich's move makes sense. It clearly signals that he is not willing to repeat the cycle of promises and uncertainty. He wants an answer. He wants a plan. And above all, he wants to compete. To put this into context, Cadillac, in partnership with Andretti Global, formally submitted its application to join Formula One as a new team in 2026. The FIA, led by Mohammed bin Sulayem, officially approved the project in October 2023, highlighting that the American consortium met all the required technical, financial, and infrastructure criteria. For the FIA, Cadillac's interest represents a legitimate and positive expansion of the championship, especially given its history in American motorsports and strong investment power. However, shortly after this approval, the tug-of-war with FOM, Formula One management, led by Stefano Domenicali and controlled by Liberty Media, began. The FOM, unlike the FIA, has not given the green light to Cadillac's entry so far, and the official argument revolves around protecting the commercial sustainability of the category. In practice, this means that the current teams, which share the profits from television and advertising rights, They don't want a new contestant unless he brings immediate and significant value to the show and revenue. In other words, Liberty Media and the existing teams don't want to dilute their profits without guarantees that the new team will have sufficient technical, sporting, and media impact to offset this division. The case has become a legal, image-based, and behind-the-scenes battle. In this scenario, Cadillac is trying to prove that it has everything F1 wants, including popular support. Recent fan opinion polls have shown that the majority of the public is in favor of Andretti Cadillac entering F1, especially for bringing back the spirit of independent, bold teams with a sporting DNA. Furthermore, the fact that the American brand is developing its own engine, scheduled for 2028, increases the project's appeal as F1 seeks greater supplier diversity. In 2025, Cadillac already has a technical partnership with General Motors and is working in parallel with external suppliers for the first few years. Still, despite the structure, factory, and investment, the commercial green light has not come. But tell me, what did you think of this video? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything.